we know that we need to feel connected to one another in a way that isn't related to power and control and abuse of power. And so the opposite of that is turning to one another in a caring way and in a way that accepts lots of people and however they are.
Hmm.
So I hope that keeps growing locally because we don't have a whole lot of control over what happens nationally or globally, but we can do a lot in our backyards.
Yeah, I'm the voice of Audacity.
I am the voice of Audacity.
I'm the voice of Audacity.
Local voices, real impact, right now. Audacity, creative action together.
And welcome to this edition of Voices of Audacity, a podcast where we speak about the people of AUDACITY-CAT as well as folks in the community and hold their ideals. My name is Steffi, your host for this edition. Every June is Pride Month, a time when folks in the LGBTQ community get together to celebrate, commemorate, and remember this one thing: just being who they are, and the struggles for them to just be. The current Trump administration has a disdain towards the LGBTQ community, with efforts to marginalize them, especially in the military, while at the federal and state levels, there are efforts to marginalize trans people in various facets of life, especially in sports, at schools, and the bathroom. And here in Maine, such restrictions had a green light for a referendum in November, only for the issue to be disqualified over improper signatures. The struggle existed for numerous decades and was inflamed with the Stonewall riots in 1969, which was considered to be the birth of the modern LGBTQ movement. And despite the social and legal advancements over the years, the struggle continues in the LGBTQ community. Tonight, I am being joined by Angela McIntyre, who is a showrunner for Rockland PRIDE. While the event previously piggybacked on other events in the first 3 years, this year in 2026, it was celebrated for the very first time as its own event on Sunday, June 7th. And at the June 11th edition of the Midcoast Villager, it had coverage of the event, along with the profile of Angela, which is featured in last week's article. I am delighted to speak to him tonight. Thank you for joining us, Angela.
Thank you for having me here, Steffi.
You're welcome. All right, and I have a few questions to ask you. All right, first of all, what is the history of Rockland PRIDE?
Well, I would say the Midcoast community has celebrated Pride in many ways, including in Rockland over the
Mm-hmm.
years, but this specific event started 4 years ago. We
Mm-hmm.
were part of the Summer Solstice Festival, and we just had a really last minute parade in the rain, and we just
Mm-hmm.
kind of gathered and walked down from Main Street to the Steel House, and then there was a sweet little party at the Steel House for people to relax in.
Yeah,
And
fascinating.
every year it's grown more and more. So last year we paired up with Sunday Stroll,
Mm-hmm.
um, and we filled up our space pretty quickly, and it was pretty obvious that
Mm-hmm.
there was enough community participation to do our own event this year, and that's what we did.
You mentioned earlier that Rockland PRIDE piggybacked on previous events and all that, like Sunny Stroll and all that. In
Hmm.
those times, how did the public who are not LGBTQ, how are they receptive of that?
Oh, so much reception in our community, so much support. In so many ways, the reason that we could do our own event is because I learned and other organizers learned from folks who are allies who do street events. So I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot about Mia at the CMCA, who really knows how to coordinate street events. I think of
Mm-hmm.
Matt Andra at Sunday Stroll. And so all of them were so supportive in us figuring out all these details
Yeah.
by ourselves. So I learned so much by just watching supportive people in leadership positions.
Pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Like I said, we had a lot of allies in the community and all that, and we're so friendly of a place to be. Yeah. Anyhow, how difficult was it for Rockland PRIDE to be on its own?
I think externally it was really successful.
Mm,
Internally, anybody who was organizing might say that it was a bit of an overreach.
yeah.
It's all volunteer run, nobody's being paid for this work. Um, and so it is a lot of work. I don't want to minimize that. And at the same time, a lot of that work was learning new processes and forming new
Hmm.
relationships. And now that those relationships are in place and we learned what we did this last year, I think that next year should be easier.
Rockland Pride is entirely a grassroots movement, eschewing sponsorships and assistance from businesses and, of course, corporations. However, some Pride events, such as Portland Pride, yeah, their businesses and corporations always, quote unquote, lead the parade.
Mm.
Why is that?
Gosh, I think it comes down to scope. There's pressure in Portland to provide a very big event to a very big
Hmm.
city, and I think every project has a breaking point where you need to bring in the support you need to do the project you're doing. So this
Exactly.
year, for example, even though we are very specific about creating a non-commercial event, we
Hmm.
needed we needed event insurance, and so Hello
Right.
Whole Books covered that major cost for us. So the bigger event you make, you're going to run into costs and you're going
Hmm.
to need financial support. And I think every community does what's best for them. But right now, Rockland's in a pretty sweet spot where we can have a generous amount of time and space on the street to celebrate and
Yeah.
still keep it non-commercial and free.
Yeah, and like I said, it kind of showed because, like I said, we had a great event so far with, like I said, with practically just locally run businesses and, of course, the public at large chipping in.
Hmm.
And like I said, we should be commended for that.
Hmm.
Good. Yeah. Anyhow, could you care to tell me how you became involved in the LGBTQ community?
I just, I've always understood myself as queer from a young age, but I don't think I really embraced it into my later adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as being organizing pride events, I think I stepped into that because I was working in social services as a domestic violence advocate, and I was processing a lot of the grief that we hold in our community, and I felt an internal call to create joy together after witnessing so much grief. And I no longer work there anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but that's kind of where that calling to create something centered around joy and togetherness was kind of a counter to witnessing
Yeah.
a lot of grief and pain.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I said, there's a reason why the fact that, like I said, these events like this exist because we all take it personally and all that, and we want to do something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyhow, moving on. Do you know what services or infrastructure are in place now for the LGBTQ community in Knox County?
Services? Let me think. I mean, I think there's a lot of service providers in Knox County who
Hmm.
maybe don't explicitly serve LGBTQI folks,
Right.
but they provide their services in a way that's really affirming.
Yeah.
And I think we could see that at in the way people participated at Rockland Pride. You could see that organizations care for this part of our community and are here to listen and support. Um, but I know there's a really great game night. Steffi, do you know about a good game night?
Yeah. Anyhow, folks, in the interest of full disclosure, yeah, I help create and run the LGBTQ game night every first Friday at the First Universalist Church in Rockland.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me that, Angela.
Yeah, I think it's so expansive what's available for folks who want to connect. Like it's more than we can keep track of, really. People are self-organizing and gathering for all kinds of sweet little reasons. So there's a lot of services available
Hmm.
professionally, and also we're just doing a lot to create our own community in small ways throughout the year.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, there's a lot, like I said, nice we can do more and all that, and like I said, we can do it. Yeah. All right. Anyhow, excuse me. Who do you see are the strongest institutional allies for LGBTQ and trans community in this area? Or to put it another way, who do you turn to?
Oh, well, I mean, I think there's more than one way to be an ally than supporting a Pride event.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
when the organizations that I felt really provided a lot of support were the Arts and Action program at the Flanagan Center.
Yeah.
The CMCA was really beautiful place to turn to for support.
Mm-hmm.
Andra at Sunday Stroll,
Yeah.
Hello Hello Books with Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, it's so many. You caught me off guard, but those are the ones that pop to mind in terms of like really just being present and ready and saying yes.
Yeah, so basically, like I said, this region, like I said, already has plenty of allies and all that.
Hmm.
So like I said,
Knox,
real, I feel
Knox
real true.
County Clinic also they were really great too.
Max
Help-
Clinic.
They helped support our safety team this year, and that was
Mm-hmm.
really great.
Is there anything this area lacks in terms of LGBTQ support?
I mean, yeah, I'm still thinking of more places that are so supportive, like the UU Church. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm still like thinking of all the folks who just came together to make things happen. Um, what do we lack? Hmm.
Hmm.
I think we need more physical space.
Yeah.
I think this project exists in a liminal space, and we have no place to really land.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, specific to this project, I think, just open spaces, storage, and
Mm-hmm.
practical things like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
On a side note, do you think the area we're allotted for Rockland Pride is too small or anything?
Oh, I think we have plenty of space on the street that day.
Yeah.
But what creates a little stress for us is that we don't have, like, putting and storing all our stuff and moving it all about.
Right. Yeah. So
Luckily, I have a very hardworking garage.
yeah. Yeah. I kind of see it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well, like I said. Well, like I said, once again, it comes down to the grassroots.
I think I know what we're lacking in this community. I think we need more support for educators
Mm-hmm.
and students. I think it's getting really stressful and really difficult to even like keep a GSA going in a school. There's
Right.
just a lot of criticism and stress around being more visible in schools, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's creating a lot of pressure on the teachers, and it's creating also a decrease in visible support for the students who really deserve it.
Yeah. Well, I believe no, I'm sorry, Belfast Pride. I think it was organized by the GSA of the high school in Belfast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I saw then when I went there last Saturday, like I said, it was kind of a robust plan as well because practically it had a lot of people attract them. It had souvenir buttons and swag and shirts for sale and all that.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And the
so
parade.
sweet.
Oh yes. Like I said, I didn't buy any myself, but it looked cute. But the shirt looks cute and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I know the Camden schools or the students are organizing something at the end of the month, I think on a Saturday.
Hmm.
So
Uh,
yeah, it's so great to see young people organize. You learn so much by just trying.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, well, concerning the flack the schools have right now in terms of support, like I said, we need more support in the schools. That's for certain.
Hmm.
Yes. Yeah. And what about peer groups?
I mean, there's the Rainbow Room at the landing place.
Hmm.
The landing place also participated in Pride, and that was terrific.
Yeah.
Um, so that's the Rainbow Rooms at the landing place, and that's a drop-in every other Wednesday
Hmm.
program. I don't know of any peer support groups in the schools themselves. I'm a little out of touch now. I used to work in the schools as
Uh-huh.
an educator, and I don't anymore.
Yes. What about adults? Some place where we can talk about experiences or whatnot, something like that.
Yeah, maybe that's an unmet need is having that more intimate and safe processing time throughout the
Hmm.
year where we're not focused on being productive or getting things done, but really focusing on our internal experiences and our connections to each other.
Yeah. Well, like I said, talking about my personal experience. Yeah, well, like I said, back in Florida, there was a great pride group, LGBTQ group met every month. And like I said, basically it's a group of trans people who came. We talk about things, what's going on, our experiences, and also they give us pointers. Sometimes we go out on special events and all that and whatnot.
Mm.
Yeah, and in 2018 we moved to Bangor, where the main Transnet group have a special service. I mean, not special service, special group for trans people, in which we got together and practically talked about our experiences and all that. However, when I moved to Rockland in 2019, there was nothing of the sort. Yeah, I took a look at main Transnet's website as of that time. Like I said, the only places were Bangor, Waterville, Brunswick, but nothing in the midcoast region in Rockland.
Mm.
And as of 2026, there's, well, like I said, when it comes to support for adults, there's nothing of sort, still nothing of sort here in the midcoast region.
Mm.
So, is there any hope that we could, any hope that something like that could be created for adults, trans adults?
Yeah, definitely. I think if the need's there, then it's just a matter of creating the container for it. I
Yeah.
mean, the big difficulty is adults are so busy, right? So
Yeah, I
getting,
realize that. Like I said, everyone has work schedules, so
yeah.
practically
You
maybe
know, I think there's big power in starting in a group of three people who are committed and enthusiastic,
absolutely.
and then just letting it grow really gradually. There could be
Hmm.
a really beautiful regular support group.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, and to be honest, once again, going personally, like I said, I would like to start a trans group with my church and all that, but like I said, it's been difficult.
What have been the difficulties you faced?
Well, like I said, first time I created a group, like I said, I had a friend of mine who would help me out. Yeah, right. And keep in mind, I'm not saying his name because, like I said, it's going out to the world and all that. So
Hmm.
you probably know, right? But yeah. But anyhow, like I said, she helped me create a trans group with my church and made a material and all that. However, she ended up being sick at the time when it actually started. And even though I've had flyers sent out to places like out Maine and I guess the rehab center for Maine Health over here, yeah, like I said, our first meeting of the trans group, we only had two people, me and Reverend Marty, who helps run the church.
Hmm.
Yeah, which I know, which like I said was a bad start, but to be honest, I would like to start again.
I'm so glad. It can be so discouraging when folks don't show up to something, and you can't ever take it personally, but at the same time, it can be so disappointing, and I'm so glad you're
Yeah,
willing to try again.
yes. And like I said, I have, once again, going on personally, I have no children of my own. And the speech I gave at Rockland PRIDE, I meant it.
Hmm.
Because I wanted to be a sibling, a mother, a grandmother who he can turn to.
Hmm. Would you mind sharing some parts of your speech?
Actually, it was ad lib, so.
Oh, yeah. I would love to hear those words again.
Well, well, like I said, practically I mentioned that, well, besides what I said about what I said about being a parent or whatever to trans people, I mentioned the fact that like I said, I have a lot of supportive people at the church, and after I started going to church, I made a vow that the love they gave me, I want to spread to everyone. So that's basically just the gist of it.
Oh, Steffi, I love hearing that. I love hearing your voice. It's beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Anyhow, moving on with moving on for the interview. What would the future be like for the LGBT community, both in Maine and nationwide?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I think nationally, I think there's two things going on. Nationally, I think it's going to become even scarier and people will be more specifically targeted,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. But then I think in counter to that is we realize that we need to create things locally that feel caring and safe
Yeah.
and restorative for us
Mm-hmm.
during these times. And so I think even though we have to witness these atrocities, and they're not just atrocities that specifically focus on queer people, but we're witnessing atrocities that focus on abducting our immigrant neighbors and
Yes.
witnessing genocide and war. And I think through witnessing all that, we know that we need to feel connected to one another in a way that isn't related to power and control and abuse of power. And so the opposite of that is turning to one another in a caring way and in a way that accepts lots of people and however they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that keeps growing locally because we don't have a whole lot of control over what happens nationally or globally, but we can do a lot in our backyards.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because like I said, we're doing so great, but like I said, the people in power are trying to ruin it for us, so we gotta keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And of course, as many of us know, the rights of trans people are being marginalized by federal government and many red states, such as Florida, Texas, Kansas, and Tennessee. And of course, with Maine having robust rights for all LGBTQ written into law, what do you see? What do you foresee for Maine?
Well, I was glad to see that referendum just kind of fart out, you know. And I think sometimes these like state level initiatives that don't really have the clout to go very far, I think they're kind of meant to distract us.
Yeah.
They're meant to get us really upset and feel powerless. When yeah, so I was glad to see that statewide initiative flopped. I think it will always depend on who's in power, um, and who's actually willing to take a risk,
Hmm.
you know, and not just ask for our votes, but really stand behind us.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because, well, like I said, sometimes I worry about what's going on with trans people and all that, and a lot of people worry about things that are going on with them. So, going on to my final question, should the trans people of Maine worry?
I think we should be worried and we should be together and we should find joy at the same time. Yeah. But no, it is worrisome time. We're worrisome times in this country and in Maine. And I don't think we should lean into exceptionalism that
Right,
Maine is going to keep us safe as a state.
right.
We can't lean on our country anymore for that.
I
So
agree.
yeah, the worry is very, very valid, but
Hmm.
so is the need to keep each other close during these really scary times.
Yeah, yeah, because like I said, we need a lot of, trans community need a lot of support right now, and even though we live in a good place nationally, like I said, I have fear for our future still.
Yeah. Yeah, I have friends who are leaving the country who are trans.
Yeah, yeah. And personally, I have friends who practically, well, I have one friend who used to live in Florida. She was an expat from Britain.
Mm,
Yeah. However, because of the atrocities going on here in Florida and in the U.S., as well as the atrocities going on in her native UK, she moved to Mexico.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
where you have more rights that protect the LGBTQ there.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I know a couple of friends who actually, well, besides myself, friends who actually moved out of Florida, including one who was also part of my trans group. Yeah, he was a trans male. He used to commute a long distance from where he used to live to attend our group. Yeah, he and his family moved to Minnesota a couple years back.
Yeah, you got to do what's right for you and your family and your life. It's so specific. But yeah, a lot of people are moving.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, like these are trying times, but well, like I said, the thing is, we'll get through it. We always do. All right. Anyhow, thank you for joining us, Angela.
Yeah, Steffi, thank you for being such a hard worker with Pride and volunteering so much of your time, getting other folks involved, sharing your wonderful voice,
Mm-hmm.
and becoming a good friend to me. I'm really glad to know you.
All right, thank you much, Angela. And like I said, you're a real pal as well. Yeah, you've been really supportive to me and the community, and we all love you.
Oh, well, I love you, Steffi. And maybe we'll do karaoke on Thursday.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and like I said,
Steffi's the best karaoke pal in Maine, as far as I'm concerned.
thank you. And on a brief plug, like I said, Hot Hill Tavern in Thomaston, karaoke night every Thursday night, 6 to 10. Yeah, so please join me and the other guys. All right, that's only a plug, not paid or anything. Just, yeah.
It's
Anyhow,
just a good
for the rest of you, yeah, thank you. Anyhow, for the rest of you, thank you for watching us this week on Voices of Audacity. Stay tuned to this channel for the next edition of our podcast, as well as to watch or listen to previous editions that you may have missed. And for more information about us, please visit our website at AUDACITY-CAT.com. Until next time, this is Steffi reminding you that if you care about democracy and your community, take a stand and raise a little hell. Good night.
If you're interested in learning more about Audacity, you can find us at www.audacitycat.com. We can also be found at Blue Sky, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you for listening.
The Voices of Audacity podcast joins with other AudacityCAT efforts to share information, promote political action, and enable discussion among local citizens. Although we hold different views on specific issues, we agree on 7 core values. We oppose authoritarianism, bigotry, and corruption. We support inclusive democracy, equity, and freedom. And we are committed to nonviolence in all actions. Any individual opinions expressed in these conversations reflect the individuals involved and do not necessarily reflect the stance of Audacity as a group.